Hello, and welcome to the curriculum preview for the 6th to 6 weeks for science in second grade. Today we're going to just briefly go over this unit for organisms and the grassland biome. So just to remind you, we've got different biomes for different 6 weeks and different grade levels. So this will just kind of show you where we've been and where your kids will be going this 6 weeks, but then also in the years to come. So last 6 weeks we focused on the tundra as our specialized application for our life science standards. And then this year we're going to be, or this 6 weeks, we're going to focus on the grassland. So let's just take a little bit of a look on how that looks for the pacing guide. So when you go to the unit overview and you click on the pacing guide, you're going to see two different options, just like we had last 6 weeks. So I know this is hard to read and I don't really expect you to read it, but this will just kind of give you a visual about the difference between the two options. So I've created this little icon to represent the grasslands. So every time you see that little grassland icon, you'll know that's when you're going to be talking about what the life science standards look like in the grassland. So let's look at option one. What we've done is we've taken the standards and created these little mini units in each one of the rows. And just for example purposes, I'll take this first one, which has 2.9a partnered with 2.10b. We're focusing on plants this 6 weeks. So last 6 weeks we did more of an animal focus for identifying basic needs. This 6 weeks we're going to want to focus more on plants, which really work better in the grassland. So even though we've had this standard before, we're going to be working with the plants more this time. We've got 10 days devoted to that, which might seem like a lot, but remember we really need to bring in those partner skills, partnering process skills with that as well, and lots of time for exploration as well as application. So in this particular example, when you go through the 5E, when you introduce the standards and engage, and then you do your hands-on and the explain, you're going to use whatever environments and habitats are in STEM scopes and aims. We don't even need to worry about the grasslands unless it just happens to come up. And then when we get ready to do the elaborate, that's when we're going to talk about, okay, well, what do you plant basic needs look like in the grasslands? And when we look at physical characteristics of plants in the grasslands, how do they help them meet their basic needs? So again, learning in a general context and then taking some time to talk about what that looks like in the grassland. And what that does is as students progress through the different mini units, they're going to have an opportunity to apply what they've learned in the grassland for about every week or so. Option two is going to compact all of your content in the first couple of weeks of the 6 weeks, which will allow you then to have about a 10-day class period or 2 weeks to do a research unit on the grasslands at the end of the 6 weeks or towards the end. You could also combine this with your reading and writing standards, so you would have a nice big block of time to do a research project that would really integrate your ELAR skills as well. So it's really the same options that you had last 6 weeks too. You can do the same thing you did last 6 weeks when you were looking with the tundra, or you can try a different option. In the next couple of slides, I'm just going to kind of briefly put them up here, but this just kind of shows you a little bit more in depth, so you can take a chance and pause the video if you'd like to read it and take a look at that. So there's an example for option one, and then this was an example for option two. So like I said, you can pause it if you'd like to look at that more in depth. Okay, so I want to also just highlight a couple of the new resources in the unit overview and make sure that you know how to find what you need. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull over the unit overview for second grade. And we're going to take a look at a couple of things. As always, you've got your standards here with the clarifiers linked. What I want to show you on this page are the guiding questions. So the guiding questions really, students should be able to answer those questions either orally or in written form or some sort of an assessment, however you're deciding to do that, in just a general application. So those guiding questions are listed over here. Now we do have some new content and new focus for this 6 weeks. Specifically, like I said before, We have a plant focus now, and then we're also focusing on the life cycle of the insects. So those are things we didn't touch on in the tundra because there weren't really great examples last 6 weeks, and we're going to focus on those now. So once your students have that general understanding, what I've done is I've created some parallel guiding questions that basically take the regular guiding questions but put them into a lens for the grassland. So that can help your students with some of those higher level contrast and comparison skills and really become experts on what these things look like in the grassland. The other thing I wanted to just mention, I'm going to kind of scooch down through some of these. I wanted to let you know that I found some really great images in STEM scopes of the specific food chains that you teach in 2nd grade, and I've linked those here, but you can find those in the teacher background. So these images are pretty small in the unit overview, but if you go to STEM scopes, the teacher background for 2.9C, you're going to find those and you can enlarge those and you could print those out and use those with your kiddos. Just a couple of other kind of hints and approaches to classroom. So what I wanted to just focus on next was the resources. I've reorganized this to hopefully be a little bit more user-friendly. And so what I've done is I've taken all of our grassland resources and put them up here and bundled them at the top. So it says right here, resources for Elaborate, grassland activity guides, lessons, and ideas. And so all of these things are going to have to do with the grasslands. And I've tried to mix up prairies and savannas and steppes, different kinds of grasslands. You don't really have to focus on a particular one. And in fact, I think exposing kids to the different names for different types of grasslands in the world is great. Also, with these activity guides, I've also got an article about prairie dog homes, which is from the comprehension toolkit. So that's linked right there if you'd like to use that. Some of the other things I just want to point out, just don't forget about the resources on the supporting as well as the required resources. Those have all been vetted to be really nice fits for this unit. Something new I wanted to point out for you. Scooch down here. We have lots of rubber band books from Ames that focus on plant parts and specifically how they meet basic needs. Those are wonderful if you haven't used those or seen those before. And then again, I have another comprehension toolkit article aligned there too. So these are all designed for you to save you time, and to help you plan efficiently. So I hope you'll find that useful. Okay, and again, just a reminder, if you're maybe not feeling that comfortable finding those unit overviews, you can pause and take a look at how to find those with those step-by-step instructions. Okay, a question that I wanted to address was this question: what does hands-on look like in the life sciences? I get this question a lot, and so I wanted to give you some images of some things that are happening around the district. These are all images from Birdville campuses. When we talk about hands-on in life science, that's really looking at the real thing if we can. So if we're talking about plants, let's get some plants. Let's go outside and look at some plants. If we're talking about animal adaptations, let's get some animals. And animals can be very simple, like roly-polies or worms, or going outside on campus and giving the kids the collecting nets and letting them discover what is out there, and you'll be amazed at what they find. So these two slides just kind of help you frame the answer to that question. So I just wanted to encourage you to not be afraid to just pull some things in, and it doesn't have to be elaborate. It's very simple. We have plenty of seeds and soil. If you ask around, I'm sure some of your teammates have some plants they'd be willing to bring from home, or if you have some from home, bring those in and just have them in your classroom to use as a teaching tool. I'd like to wrap up with some upcoming changes for science for next year in 2018 and 2019. You may or may not have heard about TEA has streamlined the science standards for K through high school courses. And so this is not exactly a rewrite of the science standards, but it was enough of a change in editing and deleting that every grade level has been changed, and vertically there's quite a few impacts. So I wanted to just let you know, number one, that that was coming up, and then number two, how you could find out more about that. So before we talk about the how you can find out, you might be interested in this. Is kind of a good why. This was taken in a fifth grade math science teacher's classroom, and what they had done is printed out all of the math standards that they had to cover this year. This came from the scope and sequence, and on the left side is math, and on the right side is science. And so you can see that there's quite a broad number, a large number of standards, and some of those spiral back to previous grade levels that they have to reteach. So this was really designed to help address some of that impact as we go through the grade levels. Um, as I mentioned, every grade level is has some changes to it, and so my job for the last 2 years I've been working on is trying to make documents that make this crystal clear, so you don't have to wade through it like I did in this picture, trying to make sense of all the changes. So what we will do is we will be able to roll this out very clearly in a couple of different ways. So first of all, if you'd like to learn more about this right away, you can go to the TEA webpage. I've linked it right here, and you'll find it a document of all of the adopted streamlined science standards, and you can find it for your grade level as well as the others. This summer, I'll have some optional training if you'd like to come and join me. I will be putting out training for science streamlining that will give you an overview of what's happened and then give you some sneak peeks at what happens in your grade level. Not alternatively, but a required session will happen in August. So everyone who teaches science will be taking a required session on our August District Professional Learning Day, and you will get an idea of what has happened at your grade level, grades below you, grades above you, and then you'll get a chance to look at the updated scope and sequence and unit overviews, because those have all had to be revised again based on the streamlining. So there's a lot to keep track of, but rest assured, I have worked hard to try to create some very clear-cut documents to help you make your way through that. So that is all I have for you for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great last 6 weeks and a restful and wonderful summer. And as always, let me know if I can help you in any way.